You've been calling it sadness, haven't you? That quiet weight in your chest that refuses to leave, that strange emptiness that visits you even on good days. You've called it depression, loneliness, burnout. But somewhere deep within, a quieter voice has been whispering, this is not the end. Something in me is changing. That voice is right, because what you call falling apart may actually be the slow, sacred act of coming home. You see, awakening does not arrive as light and laughter. It often comes disguised as exhaustion, as a deep and painful questioning of everything you once believed would make you happy. You start noticing how the things that used to matter, praise, validation, ambition, no longer light you up the way they used to. You feel disconnected, not because you've lost yourself, but because the self you thought you were is dissolving. And it's terrifying, because nobody tells you that enlightenment first feels like loss. You begin to withdraw, not out of weakness, but because noise hurts now. Crowds feel hollow. Small talk feels like sand in your mouth. The truth is, you've started hearing the silence behind things, and once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Because sometimes, silence speaks louder than any prayer. You think you're breaking down, but in truth, you are breaking open. The walls that once kept you safe are now too small for who you are becoming. The old patterns, the pretending, the pleasing, the constant striving, they no longer fit the vastness that's waking inside you. You are beginning to sense the difference between living and truly being alive. And that realization, though beautiful, is also unbearably raw. The light doesn't enter through what is perfect. It enters through what is cracked. The first sign that you're awakening, not depressed, is this: false joy no longer works. The games, the distractions, the temporary highs that once numbed you, they no longer satisfy. You find yourself unable to pretend, unable to fake enthusiasm for what feels shallow or inauthentic. And yes, that makes the world feel dull at first, like all the color has been drained from life. But this is not the death of joy. It is the death of imitation joy, the kind sold by the world, dependent on outcomes and approval. You're beginning to crave something deeper, not excitement, but peace, not attention, but truth. And when those cravings begin to rise, the old self panics. It says, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be normal again? But nothing is wrong with you. You are not broken. You're simply awakening to the truth that normal was never real peace. Because real peace is not loud or thrilling. It's subtle, almost invisible. It sits quietly in the space between your breaths, waiting for you to stop running long enough to feel it. What you call boredom is often just your soul asking for silence. At this stage, life feels confusing. You feel both more alive and more lost than ever before. You laugh and cry within the same breath. You crave solitude, yet ache for connection. You love deeper, yet trust fewer people. This paradox is the hallmark of awakening, the meeting point between the human and the divine within you. The human seeks clarity. The divine lives in mystery. The human fears uncertainty. The divine finds freedom in it. And you, caught in between, are learning to dance with both. The mind keeps asking, when will I feel better? But the soul is whispering, when will you finally stop running from what is? Because peace doesn't come when everything is understood. It comes when the need to understand falls away. The second sign you're awakening, not depressed, is that your old identity starts to crumble. You no longer know who you are supposed to be. The roles you played, the achiever, the caretaker, the strong one, suddenly feel heavy. You begin to question everything: your path, your purpose, even your desires. This can feel like death, and in a way, it is the death of illusion. But behind every death in spirit, there is rebirth. You are not losing yourself. You are shedding layers of conditioning that never belonged to you. The opinions of others, the fears you inherited, the masks you wore to be loved, all of it begins to fall away. And it hurts, because the ego grieves what the soul outgrows. You find yourself sitting in long silences, staring at walls, questioning the meaning of everything. You think you've lost direction, but truly you're just learning to walk without a map. The caterpillar does not understand the stillness of the cocoon. It thinks it has reached the end, not realizing it's on the verge of wings. Because transformation doesn't always feel like growth. Sometimes it feels like dying. When nothing makes sense, it means the truth is near. It's here that many people mistake awakening for depression, because the symptoms look so similar: fatigue, isolation, disinterest, tears. But the source is different. Depression drains your energy because it denies life. Awakening drains you because it's burning away everything that isn't life. The pain you feel is sacred fire. It is dismantling your illusions, purifying your heart, and preparing space for something vast and unnameable to take root. You start to feel a strange tenderness toward everything, even your suffering. You realize that every heartbreak, every loss, every silent night was never punishment, but preparation. Pain is not the enemy. It is the sculptor. It carves away everything that is not you, because who you really are cannot be destroyed, only revealed. The third sign you're awakening, not depressed, is that stillness begins to feel like home. At first, you resist it. You think something's wrong, because your mind is quieter than it used to be. You're not chasing anything, not craving the next thing, not desperate to fill every moment with doing. But slowly, you notice that within the quiet, there is peace. And within that peace, there is a subtle joy. Not the kind that explodes, but the kind that hums gently in the background of your being. You start to see beauty in small things again. The way light filters through a window, the rhythm of your own breath, the sound of wind moving through trees. And you realize, this is what you were searching for all along. Not more pleasure, not more meaning, not more answers, just presence. Because what you were truly missing was never out there. It was this moment, this awareness, this silent knowing that you are already whole. You do not become whole by adding to yourself, but by seeing that nothing was missing. You begin to notice the difference between sadness and sacred sorrow. Sadness says, something is wrong. Sacred sorrow says, something is being cleansed. You learn to stop fighting what you feel and start listening to it. You begin to trust that even pain has intelligence, that it knows what it's doing. You understand now that awakening is not about escaping the human experience, but entering it fully, without judgment, without resistance. You cry and smile within the same moment, and it doesn't confuse you anymore. You simply let it be. You've stopped trying to fix life because you finally see it was never broken. The rain, the storm, the stillness, all are part of the same sky. There comes a day when you wake up and realize you are no longer searching. You're not chasing healing or happiness or enlightenment. You're simply present. You still have questions, but they no longer torture you. You still feel pain, but it no longer defines you. The peace you sought through control was waiting for you in surrender. You begin to understand the mystery. You lose everything you thought you were, only to discover what you've always been. And what you've always been was never in danger, never unworthy, never incomplete, because the self that suffers is the self that forgets its source. The self that remembers is free. Freedom is not found by escaping life, but by embracing it completely. When you reach this point, compassion arises naturally. You stop blaming others for your pain, because you see they are also lost in their own awakening. You forgive more easily, not because they deserve it, but because your heart has softened. You look at strangers and sense the quiet ache behind their smiles. You no longer judge it. You understand it, because you've walked through that same ache. and come out alive. This is the quiet gift of awakening. You begin to see everyone as yourself. You stop needing to be right. You stop needing to win. You stop needing to prove anything at all. The battle ends, not because someone loses, but because you no longer wish to fight. The highest form of strength is gentle understanding. Imagine a stone in a river. For years, it resists the current, clinging to its place, afraid of being carried away. The water crashes and wears it down until, one day, the stone loosens and lets go. The river does not destroy it. It carries it. It smooths its edges, polishes its surface, and brings it where it was always meant to go. That is what awakening feels like. You stop fighting the current. You stop fearing the unknown. And you finally let the river move you, because deep down you realize the current is not separate from you. You are the current. You now see that awakening is not something that happens once. It unfolds in layers, in spirals, in seasons. Some days you feel radiant and clear, others lost and heavy again. But even in your confusion, you sense something steady beneath it, an awareness that never leaves. That awareness is who you are. Everything else is just weather passing through the sky of your being. The storms don't define the sky. They reveal its vastness. So when the next wave of heaviness comes, and it will, don't label it as depression right away. Sit with it. Listen. Ask it what it's trying to show you. Sometimes the soul speaks only in the language of ache. Not every darkness is despair. Some is simply depth. If you are hearing this, it means life is still shaping you. It means the divine hasn't given up on you. Not even for a moment. And maybe, just maybe, this chapter of confusion is your invitation to see clearly for the first time. Because awakening does not take you away from life. It roots you deeper in it. It teaches you to breathe through pain, to see beauty in imperfection, to love even when it hurts. And one day, you will look back and realize that what you once called depression was actually the sacred beginning of your becoming. You were not breaking. You were breaking open. You were not lost. You were being led home. So breathe. Let the silence speak. And remember, you are not falling apart. You are finally awakening. Because sometimes, what feels like the end of meaning is just the beginning of truth.